Alright kiddos, Mr. Salisbury here, and what I have for you is the first cartoon that you actually looked at yesterday, and I wanted to kind of go over it with you really quickly because today we're going to go over the first document together, which is looking at a cartoon with words. I know you can see it pretty well here, and but what I did is I rewrote it so you could read it. Important part when looking at political cartoons is not only to be looking at the words, but to also be looking at the picture. Now, looking at the actual picture like you did yesterday, you guys did a pretty good job, but what you really want to do is look at the little minor details, because the details will still tell a story as well. So for example, you can see that if you look at the eyes of the kids, that they're really into it, in a negative way almost. You can tell by the way their faces are, they almost look like zombies. The author, not the author, but I guess the person who drew it, did that on purpose. Everything on here is done on purpose. You can see that the mother has a look of concern. You can even see the father has his hands in his pocket, and that's usually a sign that somebody may be nervous. You can see here that her face, she looks worried. And then yesterday in the conversation that you guys had, you kind of looked at the big picture, but you didn't look at the little pieces that you really want to do. Most importantly, you can see that the author actually makes outside very nice. The person who drew this picture did that on purpose because they're trying to communicate an idea, a main idea. So they have the nice weather. Dad's worried. Mom's worried. Kids are really into this. And yesterday you laughed because it is funny and everything, but when we really look at this and we break it up, it's not super funny. What it's saying is that the parents are terribly worried that the kids are using too much screen time and not going outside enough. That's kind of how we would analyze a political cartoon. We want to ask every single little question. Does the shoes that they wear, does that make a difference? In my opinion, no. So I didn't write any notes next to that, but I did write notes around everything that I thought might be important. The second one that you looked at yesterday, was same idea, right? But the person who did the picture did it a little bit differently. And I rewrote it down here at the bottom because it's kind of hard to read. It says it enables the modern family to gather around a table and dine together. So this time we see that there are both adults that are looking at it. All right, Dad seems happy. Mom seems concerned. Now, what I think is really important here is that the person used a dining table, because a dining table usually symbolizes or is where you talk with your family at night. So the author of this picture, I guess the illustrator, didn't choose a dining room table on accident. They actually chose it on purpose because that is usually when you have your family time, that family time. Now, of course, now that there are these screens here, all right, there's not going to be any engagement with the family, which apparently Dad seems happy about, Mom not so much. And so really the main idea, although done in a funny way, is again on how, in this case, that families are not as close as they once were because of technology. This is kind of how we analyze. So now let's get to looking at our actual document. So in your actual packets, I want you to turn to page 7, and I want you to look, I made a bigger picture so you could see it a little bit better, at what we need to analyze. And as I'm analyzing this with your pencils, I'm going to do it with my pen, any notes that are right on here, I want you to write the same thing on here. And you can hit pause at any time. If you miss something, you can hit pause and rewind. And so that's kind of the beauty of doing it in the video form, is that you have control. Okay, because for document A, I'm going to kind of do it with you, show you model on how you would analyze a document. Document B and maybe document C you're going to do with your groups. I haven't determined groups yet, but document D you're going to do on your own. Okay, and so it's important that you listen and kind of take the notes for this, because it will be important for you later. So this document actually has two different documents. Okay, you can see up here are the sources. That's the source there. Okay, and so this top one was actually done by Ed Steen, his name is, or Stein. It was done in 2008, and it was in a newspaper. Okay, this is a different document. Okay, and of course it was done by Thomas Jefferson in 1776. And so it's important that we at least look at where these things are coming from. Okay, because we want to know who's saying it if they know what they're talking about. All right. So let's look at the picture first. Okay. I love to write all over my papers and just kind of write whatever I'm thinking. So first thing that I notice is that I got some pillars that are missing. Okay. So I got a missing pillar. Write this on your paper. Okay. This one has fallen. This one's falling. It's tipping over. Okay. So I could say here, fallen. And then here I'll say falling, like it's currently falling. Okay. Now, I think all of these look like newspapers. Okay. What I could potentially see the author maybe trying to do here is that these would be representing all the different types of press. Like this would represent radio, this would represent television. What the author might be saying is that newspapers have already been quote unquote killed. But since the author actually has made all of these newspapers, I think he's talking about just newspapers. But what I think that he is trying to say, because some are fallen and some have fallen, is that a lot of newspaper companies have gone out of business. Okay, and so that we still have free press. Okay, but we don't have as much press and as much free press as we once did. And so what's happening is that the pillars, these are pillars, but this is symbolic. Okay, so this is symbolic. Okay, these pillars are symbolic of what is essential to democracy. Okay, and so really what that means is that essential, 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 all these are essential, but unfortunately we have actually started to knock some of these pillars away. In America, this is written, we see in the Rocky Mountain News, okay, and so this would be in America. And so what this author is saying, okay, is that freedom of press, when that is attacked, it makes democracy less stable, and if it gets attacked enough where all of these pillars are knocked down, democracy will fall as well. Okay, so best thing to do before you even get to these questions is after you've analyzed this and you've written your notes, okay, on the margin, so over here, one sentence, I want you to tell me what you think the main idea, okay, is for the first picture. And when I say main idea, what I mean is, what is the author trying to say? And you want to do it in one sentence. I'm going to give you that one sentence because that's kind of what I said that I was going to do, because we're doing this together. But that is something that you're going to be doing in the other documents. So, in my opinion, what the main idea is here, let me think. I would say that without free press, democracy is unable to be successful. That is what the author is trying to say, is that without that free press, that the democracy will fall. It'll physically fall. Now let's look at this next one. I can even right away put main idea, because underneath it I'm going to write what the main idea is, okay? Even though that I'm not really sure what it's going to be yet, because I haven't actually read it, okay? So let's read it together, and as I'm reading this, okay, I'm going to circle words, because if I'm going to be analyzing documents, it's very important that I know what all the words mean, okay? Were it left to me, so this is written from Thomas Jefferson, so when he says were it left to me, he's referring to himself. If it were left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate, circle hesitate, a moment to prefer the latter, circle latter. Every man should receive those papers and be capable of reading them. Underline this, okay, because I think that's the main idea, is that it's important for the people to be educated, to be able to read these things, okay, so they know what's going on. But anyways, to hesitate, because he says not hesitate, right, so it'd be the opposite, but to hesitate means to pause. So he's saying that he wouldn't pause a second, that he would make his choice right away. Now ladder, okay, I know that you might think it's something you climb. Well, that's L-A-D-D-E-R. This ladder, okay, means second. And so what I mean by that is if I said, okay, I want you to choose dinner tonight. You can have pizza or Chinese food. If you said, I prefer the latter, you mean that you want Chinese food, the second one, okay? So, this is pretty powerful coming from Thomas Jefferson, which you guys all know really well. He's saying that he would rather have no government at all and newspapers than have a government without newspapers. Pretty powerful stuff, okay? And so for the main idea over here, I would say, for Thomas Jefferson anyways, I'd say, what am I say here? All right, I'll say this. If citizens will be voting for their government, it is important they can read about them. Okay, basically that it's in a democracy, what I think that he's saying is that it's the citizens' responsibility to be able to read the news and read the newspaper and there to be a press. Because if we are going to make the decisions, and I say we, I mean the citizens, or you when you turn 18, we need to be informed. Because if we're not informed, then we're going to vote for people that are really bad people to be, you know, senator or whatever it is that we're voting for. It's our job to be informed so we can make good choices. That's what Thomas Jefferson is saying. So you can see that they're saying a little bit different things. Okay, this person is saying that you need newspapers and press for democracy to happen. He's kind of taking it from the opposite view. Since our democracy, which means you can vote, you got to be able to read the press and know what's going on. Okay, so the final piece is that we're going to do these last questions together. Okay, the first few I think that were pretty easy because it's really just looking at the picture. And so the first one says, look at the cartoon. What is the name of the building? Of course, it was Democracy. So write that down. Okay. Look at the columns or pillars holding up Democracy. What are they? Okay. Let's say newspapers. Okay. Now, read Thomas Jefferson's question or quotation. What would Jefferson rather have? And this one's pretty easy too because he said it. I can even look. Should have a government without newspapers. That he would rather have newspapers without a government. Okay, and so for here we'll say newspapers without government. Okay. Number 4. Okay. Usually the last 2 questions in a DBQ are the ones that are going to be most important that you answer well. Because yesterday we talked about the buckets. Okay. Usually, not always, but these are going to go into certain buckets. Okay. And so we really want to focus in on these questions and have strong answers, because if my answer is really strong here, this is going to be my paragraph. It's exactly the way it is. All right. So the next one says, Jefferson says that every man should be able to read newspapers. Make an inference. Okay, so why? Why do you think that? Because he doesn't say why. This is so important to Jefferson. So you can mentally think on why you think it's so important right now. But what I think is that, I'll say this, people need to be involved in government, and the only way they can is, I don't want to say it, I'll say the only way they can is if they are informed. Because if they're not informed, okay, what if, sorry, I know it's not all there, what if the government's doing some really bad stuff, but you don't know about it because you chose not to know about it? Okay, that doesn't mean that you are, that you're not part of the problem. Just because that you're choosing to ignore something doesn't mean that, that's a good choice. So I think what he's saying is that, if citizens want to be a democracy, which I agree with, they need to be able to read and they need to be able to be informed. And then finally, this is probably the most important question on document A. Democracy is a form of government where people choose their leaders by voting. Why are newspapers and free press important to democracy? Okay, this is what I want you to write, because this will eventually go right into your paper, okay? And if you have to write in, like you can see, like my paper's got notes all over. I want yours to look like this too, which means that, if I run out of room, I can kind of write it anywhere. All right, these are just my notes. Newspapers are important because they help to educate voters, right? So if you're going to vote and you're going to make a good decision, you got to know what's going on. By reading / listening, watching, whatever, I'll say listening, to press. Yeah, I'm gonna run out of room, so I'm gonna kind of go anywhere I need to. I'll draw an arrow. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I have some more room there, okay? press, people can make informed, means that you have the information, decisions when choosing leaders. Okay, and then you could add to it if you wanted, but basically what I'm saying is that if all the citizens are not informed because of the freedom of press, and it's time for them to vote, okay, they're not going to be able to make a good decision. It'd be like voting for your class representative that you do for SCA, except that you have to vote for somebody that you don't know. There's 3 people you don't know, you can't ask them questions, you can only vote for one of the 3. Well, you kind of want to know what they, what they think, what they want to do, if they'd be a good choice. And so that's the important part of freedom of press. We live in a very big country, right? We have about, I think, 8 million people just in America. And so when there's that many people, in order for us to get information out about our leaders, press is the only way to do it, okay? That's document A. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, I guess it'll be next week, we're going to look at document B, which is really kind of neat because it comes from somebody that I think that you guys know. That would be Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.